Being intelligent is often portrayed as a gift, a sign of strength, success, and superiority. Society praises smart people as innovators, problem solvers, and visionaries. But what people rarely talk about is the burden that comes with being too smart. It's not always a life filled with confidence and applause. Sometimes it's a quiet existence filled with misunderstanding, isolation, and the constant sense that you simply don't fit in. If you've ever felt like your thoughts move faster than conversations, or that others find your insights too much, you might be one of those people whose intelligence makes ordinary life feel unusually complicated. The truth is, when your perception runs deeper than most, you see layers of reality that others ignore. You sense motives that people conceal. You notice patterns that others miss, and you question the very systems others blindly follow. That awareness gives you wisdom, but it can also make connection difficult. Most people live on the surface. They think in terms of social validation, trends, and emotional comfort. You, on the other hand, might think in terms of principles, purpose, and truth. While others gossip or debate trivialities, you might find yourself analyzing the psychology behind their behavior. It's not arrogance. It's just that your brain is wired to explore meaning, not noise. But that depth often leads to frustration. You crave conversations that expand your mind, while most people crave ones that confirm their comfort. Highly intelligent people often feel drained by small talk. It's not because they look down on others. It's because their curiosity runs deeper. You might find yourself thinking, why are we talking about this? When others are discussing celebrity scandals, fashion, or minor office drama, you crave conversations about purpose, history, philosophy, or the human condition. You want to explore the why behind everything, while others are content with the what. This difference can make you seem distant or too serious, but in reality, your silence is not arrogance, it's mental self-defense. You've learned that not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every person deserves your energy. Intelligence doesn't just give you awareness, it gives you restraint. You've probably noticed how easy it is for your words to intimidate others, even when you didn't mean to. When you express a deep idea or challenge a common belief, people might label you as complicated, intense, or even weird. What they don't realize is that your perspective simply operates on another wavelength. True intelligence isn't about knowing everything, it's about seeing everything. You might notice how emotions shape decisions, how fear hides behind anger, or how ego drives most conflicts. This understanding gives you power, but also distance. Once you see how people operate, it becomes hard to engage in illusions. You can't unsee manipulation, fakery, or hypocrisy. You can't pretend to enjoy empty validation or shallow praise. You crave authenticity in a world addicted to appearances, and this craving can make you feel alone. You may find that your social circle shrinks as your understanding deepens. You don't fit easily into social cliques or gossip chains. People might mistake your independence for coldness, your quietness for pride, or your introspection for sadness. But the truth is, your solitude isn't loneliness. It's a sanctuary. It's where your thoughts mature, where your creativity flourishes, and where your wisdom deepens. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood this paradox. They knew that the wise often walk alone, not because they dislike people, but because they refuse to betray their truth for acceptance. The Stoics taught that a strong mind is often misunderstood by weaker ones. When you're guided by reason and reflection, you naturally stand apart from those guided by impulse and ego. Yet even as intelligence isolates you, it also empowers you. It allows you to predict consequences, to stay calm in chaos, and to see beyond short-term emotions. While others react, you respond. While others chase approval, you pursue understanding. This clarity is your strength, but it comes at the cost of being too much for some people. So if you've ever been told that you think too much or that you make things complicated, take it as a compliment. It means your mind refuses to accept easy answers. It means you're awake in a world that prefers sleep. You see through illusions not because you want to, but because you can't not see. The burden of intelligence is real, but so is its beauty. Your deep awareness, your curiosity, your independence, these aren't flaws. They're signs of an evolved mind. Don't dim your light just because others can't handle its brightness. The goal isn't to fit in, it's to grow beyond. Being too smart for most people doesn't mean you're better. It means your journey is different. It's quieter, lonelier, but infinitely more meaningful. And in time, you'll find your kind. People who don't fear depth, who think before they speak, and who understand that silence can be louder than noise. Until then, walk your path with calm pride. Your intelligence is not a curse. It's a gift, one that few will understand, but that will always lead you toward truth. One of the clearest signs that you're too intelligent for most people isn't arrogance, and it's overthinking. But let's redefine that word. Society uses overthinking as an insult, implying that you worry unnecessarily or complicate simple matters. In truth, what others call overthinking, you might call deep analysis. It's not that you want to complicate things. It's that you can't ignore the complexity that's already there. Your mind naturally scans every angle of a situation. When someone says something, you don't just hear their words, and you notice their tone, timing, facial expression, and what's not being said. You sense undercurrents that others miss. When faced with a problem, you don't just look for a quick fix. You explore root causes, long-term consequences, and the human emotions behind every decision. That's not anxiety, and that's intelligence at work. But here's the paradox: this gift can feel like a curse. Because your mind operates on multiple levels, you often struggle to rest. While others move on quickly, you replay events in your head, dissecting meanings and motivations. You question why someone reacted a certain way, what you could have done differently, or what hidden truth lies beneath their behavior. You don't do this to suffer. You do it because you see patterns. And your mind craves clarity. Most people think linearly. One cause, one effect. You, on the other hand, think systemically. You see how one action influences another, how emotions ripple through relationships, how small lies become large betrayals. This deep awareness can make life heavier. You can't just let things go the way others do, because your mind insists on understanding why they happened in the first place. Overthinking is often misunderstood because most people operate with simpler frameworks. When they tell you to stop thinking so much, what they really mean is stop thinking beyond what I understand. But the truth is, your mind isn't broken, it's just highly responsive. It processes more data, interprets more emotions, and projects more possibilities. You're not paranoid. You're perceptive. You don't invent problems, and you anticipate them. However, the danger of a powerful mind is that it can turn inward. When your intelligence meets uncertainty, it can spiral into self-doubt. You begin to question not only the world, but also yourself. Am I the problem? Am I imagining things? Why do I always notice what others don't? These questions arise because your mind seeks logic in a world that often operates without it. But intelligence doesn't always lead to peace. Sometimes it leads to awareness that others aren't ready to face. You might notice how people contradict themselves, how they say one thing but mean another. You see the emotional masks they wear, the smiles that hide insecurity, the confidence that conceals fear. You pick up on unspoken tension, subtle manipulation, and emotional dishonesty. And because you see it, you can't ignore it. That's why intelligent people often feel emotionally exhausted. They live in a world of constant mental activity, processing realities that most never perceive. Yet this overthinking also gives you profound strength. It sharpens your intuition, refines your empathy, and protects you from deception. You might hesitate before trusting someone, not because you're cold, but because you recognize the cost of misplaced trust. You might take longer to make decisions, not because you're indecisive, but because you understand the weight of consequences. Your caution is not fear, and it's wisdom in motion. Stoic philosophers understood this mental burden. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." To a deep thinker, this means your mind shapes your reality, so you must choose your thoughts wisely. The challenge for intelligent people isn't to stop thinking, it's to guide their thinking. Instead of letting your mind spiral into anxiety, you can train it toward clarity, purpose, and acceptance, the core of Stoic practice. When you learn to use your intelligence as a tool rather than a trap, overthinking becomes strategic reflection. You begin to channel your analysis into growth instead of rumination. You start seeing patterns not as sources of fear, but as maps for understanding human nature. You use your insights to navigate relationships with calm detachment, observing without absorbing, understanding without reacting. Still, this transformation takes discipline. The same mental depth that makes you wise can also make you restless. The Stoic solution is not suppression but mastery, learning to pause before your thoughts spiral, To ask yourself, is this within my control? When it's not, you release it. When it is, you act with reason. This balance turns intelligence from chaos into calm. So yes, you overthink. But maybe it's not a flaw at all. Maybe it's proof that your mind operates on a higher frequency. You see life in shades where others see in black and white. You connect ideas that others never notice. You question what others accept. One of the most misunderstood experiences of highly intelligent people is the quiet struggle to connect. It's not that you dislike people, far from it. You crave meaningful connection, stimulating conversation and genuine understanding. But what often happens is that you feel like an outsider, even in a crowd. You listen, you observe, you engage, yet something inside you whispers, I don't belong here. This isn't arrogance or antisocial behavior. It's a natural result of valuing depth in a world obsessed with appearance. Most people bond over surface-level comfort, shared routines, trends, gossip, or temporary emotions. But your mind seeks substance. You want to talk about the things that matter. Human nature, growth, truth, philosophy, creativity. You want to explore what drives people, not what entertains them. And when those conversations don't happen, you retreat into your own world, not out of pride, but out of preservation. The truth is, intelligent people often find it hard to maintain small talk because it drains them. Pretending to care about meaningless chatter feels unnatural. You might sit in social situations and feel detached, even invisible, not because you can't contribute, but because you can't pretend. You feel the invisible weight of insincerity when people compete for attention, fake interest, or talk to impress rather than connect. It's not that you judge them, you just don't understand how people can settle for such emptiness. Your standards for connection are higher, not in an elitist way, but in a spiritual one. You want honesty, not charm. You want presence, not performance. You want people who listen instead of waiting to speak. But in a society where noise is celebrated more than silence, this makes you a rare breed. People may even call you distant or unapproachable, when in reality, you're simply tired of shallow interactions. This is why you often prefer solitude over forced company. You find peace in being alone, with your thoughts rather than surrounded by meaningless noise. While others fear being alone, you find clarity there. You recharge in silence because silence doesn't lie. You'd rather read a profound book, watch the sunset, or sit in reflection than spend hours in conversations that lead nowhere. To you, time is sacred, and giving it to those who don't value truth feels like a betrayal of your own mind. But this depth also brings a hidden kind of loneliness. You may meet hundreds of people and still feel unseen. You might express an idea and watch it get brushed off or misunderstood. You might offer genuine advice and get labeled too intense. It's not that others are bad. They just don't see what you see. They operate on emotional instincts. While you process through reason and reflection, you see 10 layers deep while they're focused on the surface. This disconnect often leads to a kind of quiet suffering and the pain of being misunderstood. You try to simplify your thoughts to fit in, but it feels like shrinking yourself. You suppress your insights to avoid intimidating people, but that feels dishonest. You smile through conversations that feel empty, but it leaves you drained. Over time, you learn that connection isn't about numbers, and it's about resonance. One real conversation with a like-minded person can mean more than 100 shallow ones. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same principle applies here. Stop searching for people who understand you. Be the person who understands yourself. True connection begins there. When you fully accept your own depth, you stop apologizing for it. You realize that you don't need everyone to understand you. Only a few will, and that's enough. As you grow in self-awareness, you'll start attracting people who share your wavelength. Deep souls find each other through energy, not chance. They recognize depth in your eyes, calm in your silence, and truth in your words. These are the people who don't fear your intensity. They match it. They don't get bored by your thoughts, and they add to them. When you meet them, conversations flow effortlessly, and time feels irrelevant. That's when you realize that being misunderstood by many was worth being understood by a few. Until then, solitude is not your enemy. It's your training ground. It's where you refine your thoughts, develop emotional resilience, and learn the art of self-sufficiency. You begin to enjoy your own company, not as a defense, but as an expression of peace. The Stoics often reminded themselves that the wise person is self-contained, not dependent on external validation. but fulfilled from within. So yes, you struggle to relate, but only because you refuse to dilute your depth to fit in. You don't need to lower your frequency to connect with the masses. Stay where you are, and those who think like you will rise to meet you. Depth will always look strange in a shallow world, but it's what gives life meaning. You're not too much. You're simply more aware than most. When you stop seeing your isolation as rejection and start viewing it as alignment, everything changes. You realize that your inability to relate to most people isn't a weakness. It's a sign of your evolution. You were never meant to blend in. There's a unique kind of loneliness that comes from feeling emotionally older than everyone around you. You might be surrounded by people your age, friends, co-workers, even family, yet their priorities, reactions, and desires often feel alien to you. While they chase excitement, you crave meaning. While they act impulsively, you pause to reflect. While they get lost in drama, you quietly observe patterns. It's not that you're detached. It's that you've already outgrown certain illusions. This feeling isn't arrogance. It's the natural byproduct of emotional intelligence. When your intellect combines with deep emotional awareness, you start to experience life differently. You don't just feel emotions, and you understand them. You sense where they come from, how they evolve, and what they reveal. You see how fear hides behind anger, how ego disguises insecurity, and how people project their pain onto others. This awareness gives you compassion, but it also makes it difficult to relate to those who still live unconsciously. You may find yourself comforting people older than you, giving advice to friends who can't see their own self-destructive habits, or staying calm in situations that make others panic. You naturally slip into the role of the wise one, even when you didn't ask for it. And while others admire your calm, they rarely understand the cost of it. They don't see the sleepless nights, the emotional fatigue, or the quiet burden of constantly understanding everyone. Emotionally intelligent people feel deeply, but they rarely react impulsively. You've learned that reacting emotionally often leads to regret. So instead of lashing out, you analyze. Instead of arguing, you withdraw. You'd rather understand the root of a conflict than win it. This emotional maturity makes you stable, but it can also make you appear distant. People who live in emotional chaos often mistake your calm for coldness. They think you don't care, when in reality, you care too much, just in a quieter way. The curse of emotional intelligence is that it creates empathy without escape. You can sense others' pain even when they hide it. You might walk into a room and instantly pick up on tension, sadness, or anger that no one speaks about. You absorb the emotional temperature of your environment, and that sensitivity can be exhausting. You carry other people's feelings in your heart as if they were your own. That's why you often need solitude, not because you dislike people, but because you need to detox from their emotions. And yet that same depth is your greatest gift. Your emotional maturity allows you to forgive faster, to let go of grudges, and to stay composed when others crumble. You've learned that peace isn't found in controlling others, it's found in mastering yourself. The Stoics taught that emotions are not enemies to be suppressed, but energies to be understood. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But being emotionally older can make relationships complicated. You might find it hard to connect with people who are still ruled by impulse, ego, or drama. You crave calm, but others crave chaos. You want honesty, but others want validation. You might even suppress parts of yourself, just to avoid intimidating people with your maturity. This can create an inner conflict, the struggle between wanting connection and refusing to lower your emotional frequency to get it. Eventually, you learn that not everyone deserves your understanding. Your empathy is sacred, but it needs boundaries. You realize that you can care without carrying, that you can love without losing yourself. You begin to practice what the Stoics called apatheia, not apathy, but tranquil detachment. It means caring deeply, yet remaining unmoved by what you can't control. When you reach that point, you stop trying to fix people. You simply accept them. You stop chasing peace from others and start cultivating it within. Feeling emotionally older also changes how you see the world. You begin to value simplicity over stimulation, stillness over excitement, and truth over popularity. You no longer need to prove your worth or compete for attention. You realize that wisdom isn't loud and it's silent. Real strength isn't in domination, it's in self-control. You begin to understand that peace is not found in external success, but in internal balance. Still, this maturity can feel isolating. It's hard watching others repeat mistakes you've already learned from. It's painful to see people choose ego over love, pleasure over growth, distraction over reflection, but you also learn to let them. You accept that everyone grows at their own pace, and that your role isn't to pull them forward, but to walk your own path with integrity. So if you often feel older than your years, don't see it as a burden, see it as evolution. You've been given the gift of awareness early, and while that can make your path lonelier, it also makes it more meaningful. You see life not just as a series of moments, but as a journey of the soul. You understand that every challenge, every heartbreak, every silence is part of your growth. The Stoics would say you've learned the hardest truth of all. Peace doesn't come from the world. It comes from the self. You don't need constant reassurance, attention, or praise to feel complete. You've built emotional independence, and that's something few ever achieve. You may feel like an old soul in a young world, but that's not a curse. It's your calling. The world needs more people who think before they react, who love with awareness, and who remain calm in the storm. Your emotional intelligence isn't what makes you different, it's what makes you wise. At the deepest level, the clearest sign that you're too intelligent for most people is your relentless pursuit of truth. While others chase comfort, approval, or belonging, you chase understanding. You want to know what's real, not what's convenient. And that simple difference separates you from the crowd. Most people live by borrowed beliefs. They repeat what they've been told, follow trends without question, and align themselves with opinions that make them feel safe. But you question everything, and even yourself. You don't accept ideas just because they're popular. You test them against logic, experience, and evidence. You look beneath appearances to see the structure of things. That's why conformity feels impossible to you. It demands blindness, and your mind was born to see. This truth-seeking nature gives you strength, but it also isolates you. Because when you start speaking the truth, or even quietly living it, you disrupt comfort. You expose illusions people depend on. You make others feel the discomfort of reflection. They sense your independence, and it challenges their conformity. You become the mirror they don't want to face. That's why truth-tellers, philosophers, and visionaries often walk alone. Not because they want to, but because most people fear the light they carry. You've probably noticed that when you speak honestly, people sometimes react defensively. They may call you negative and cold or too critical, when in reality, you're just refusing to pretend. You'd rather have one uncomfortable truth than 1,000 comforting lies. You don't chase attention, you chase clarity. And because of that, you rarely fit neatly into social hierarchies built on ego and performance. This mindset can make life feel lonely. You may look around and wonder why people celebrate falsehood, reward ignorance, and silence honesty. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that truth is never meant to be popular. Seneca wrote, "Truth is rarely pleasant. It is the medicine that heals by pain." You understand that, and that's why your intelligence often feels heavy. You see through manipulation, media illusions, and social masks. You can't unsee what's fake once you've seen what's real. Your mind refuses to participate in pretense. You won't flatter someone to gain favor or pretend to agree just to belong. You'd rather be alone in authenticity than surrounded by comfort built on lies. That's not cynicism, that's integrity. Your intelligence doesn't just sharpen your logic, it deepens your honesty. You feel an inner responsibility to align your thoughts, words, and actions. And that alignment, while rare, makes you powerful beyond measure. But the pursuit of truth comes with a price. You often experience existential fatigue. When you see through so much illusion, the world can start to feel meaningless. You realize how temporary most things are: status, wealth, approval, even emotions. You notice how much of human life revolves around ego-driven illusion. This awareness can make you withdraw, feeling detached or disillusioned. Yet if you look deeper, you'll find the Stoic lesson hidden within. Detachment is not emptiness, and it's freedom. When you stop needing validation, you gain clarity. You start making decisions not for applause, but for peace. You stop chasing people who don't understand you. You stop explaining your worth. You learn to let silence speak for you. In that silence, truth becomes your closest companion. Calm, consistent, and incorruptible. The Stoics believe that wisdom lies in living according to nature, meaning living in harmony with truth. To an intelligent mind, this means not resisting reality but understanding it. You don't fight the way things are. You study them. You don't complain about what people do. You learn why they do it. You rise above drama not because you're detached from emotion, but because you understand that emotion without wisdom leads to chaos. Your intelligence allows you to see beyond appearances, but your wisdom allows you to accept them. That's the final stage of true intelligence and peace. You realize that you don't need to fix everyone, prove anything, or constantly explain yourself. You learn to conserve your energy for what truly matters: growth, virtue, and meaning. So if you've ever felt like you live in a world that rewards ignorance more than insight, remember, you're not meant to blend in. You're meant to observe, learn, and elevate. Your clarity may isolate you for a while, but eventually, it will attract those who value honesty as much as you do. The truth may make you lonely, but it will also make you free. You're not too smart for most people in a superior sense. You're simply tuned to a different frequency. You operate from awareness, not reaction. You seek depth, not drama. You live by truth, not by trend. And that kind of intelligence will always stand apart, because it's not built to entertain, it's built to understand. In the end, being too smart for most people isn't about intellect alone. It's about consciousness. It's about seeing life as it is, not as others wish it to be, and still choosing peace. It's about standing in your truth even when no one claps. That's not loneliness. That's mastery.